Hello and welcome to Journeys and Journals. I'm Bernie Martin Beck, and this is the very first time I've had pick and shovel on the program because my guests today are the clampers. I guess I shouldn't wear it because I'm not really a clamper, but I want you to meet the guys who really are. You are?
I'm Glenn Hearrell, and I am a 30-year member of Clamperdom.
You're from where, Glenn?
Oh, I live in Murphy, but I'm originally from Southern California, and that's where I happened to be initiated into clampers, and it took a friend of mine almost 3 years to talk me into it, and it's one of the best decisions he made for me.
He made for you.
My name is Jim McConnell. I'm an ex-Noble Grand Humbug with the Humbug chapter from the county of Siskiyou. We are presently seated in Wairika.
I'm Keith Long. I joined the Clampers in 1980. I'm from Modesto, California. Moved up here to Grants Pass in 1997.
My name is Ryan Kubli. I'm an Oregon native. I've been a clamper for 3 years now, and I like it a lot.
I'm Jim Ragsdale. I'm also a clamper, naturally, and I was initiated in 1980 also, so I've been a member for quite a while.
I heard of Kubli. Is that like Kubli Road?
Yes.
Oh, folks. Yeah, there's a little more history. I bet you we could talk on that. I got to get back the clamper hat, but what are those symbols across the front of it? Anybody that the hat fits, tell me the story. Oh,
that's okay. I have to dust it off all the time. The across the front, it was kind of a takeoff on a motorcycle club from Orange County, but we modified it in such a way that it has an E, a C, and a V. That stands for E Clampus Vitus, which is the official name of our organization, which is about 70,000 strong in the West.
well, now those names, that sounds so uptown, but what's it mean?
Not much. The name, as best we can determine, came from Virginia, and ended up out in California during the early gold rush days.
You're talking 1850s.
1850s. That is correct.
That's 150 some years ago. What?
And people ask, what does E Clampus Vitus mean? And really, there's no the closest to the first one, which is an E, just the letter E. You can trace it back to Greek and Roman, and it has two different meanings. But somewhere, it means and, or something similar to that. Vitus is the name of a real Roman Catholic saint. Clampus, somebody just made her up.
So it's nonsense. Just who's the senior representative of E Clampus Vitus here? Which one of you has the distinction of being history?
Well, as far as that goes, I was appointed a historian by the setting president, or Humbug, as he is called. And because of that, I try to retain some knowledge of the history of clamperdom and how it got to Oregon.
Well, humbug like what?
Bah. Bah humbug was a very popular term because of a fellow in a Dickens book. And in the West, you find quite a few places that carry that title. We have a creek in Siskiyou County called Humbug Creek.
Now,
and there was a town of Humbug on Humbug Creek during the 1850s.
And who else is from Northern California here?
I live on Humbug Creek.
You do?
I live about 12 miles back in the mountains. About 12 miles back in the mountains. I live on Humbug Creek, and I'm an ex-Humbug from our local chapter.
Well, where did these chapters get it start? I just found here that there was a book about humbugs. and such. Where's this organization? Where'd you get into this? How did you happen to get hooked into humbugs?
Well, I'd always known about the clampers growing up. I spent some of my youth in California, and I'd heard of the clampers. Was never asked to join. But when I moved up here, I started working at an underground gold mine just outside of Grants Pass. And my boss was a clamper from Weaverville. And he asked me one week if I wanted to go become a clamper, and that was the beginning of the end.
Or the beginning of the beginning.
Yeah.
Because clampers do lots of things. I mean, this guy's been volunteering to work on the Historic Society. What other kinds, and help? You know, he knows how to do all kinds of helping things.
Well, we also have a 2-mile stretch of highway on 199 where we go out 3 or 4 times a year and we pick up trash to keep the highways clean. Because
Between where and where?
between the Applegate River and Wilderville, the other side of Wilderville.
Yeah, milepost 7 and milepost 9.
Now, that's a wonderful job, but can anybody get assigned a 2-mile stretch? And the people watching today, could they?
Yes, they can. All they need to go is go to ODOT and fill out the paperwork.
Say, count me in, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm going to put down the pick. Start your stories, guys. I don't know. Does the shovel? Why clampers in the first place? I mean, why didn't you go join one of those other service clubs?
Well, that's an interesting question. And usually, I joined the clampers. I had no idea who they were, what they were about. They were a fun group of guys, and they said, we're going to have this big party, and you can become a clamper. And I said, huh. So myself and 5 buddies from down in the Reading area drove up and became a clamper in the rain down just south of Dunsmuir at a campground. And it took me some time before I really became educated as to what the clampers were really all about.
Okay, which one of you are going to tell the story? Where did it get started?
I can give a quick capsule opinion.
Oh, okay.
Not necessarily an accurate story, but my opinion. Anyway, what happens is that during the gold mining days,
We're talking 1850.
we're talking about 1849.
Oh.
That's probably the first thing you want. They call people the 49ers because gold was discovered in 1848. The gold miners who came to California in 1 year went from the gold fields down in what's called the Mother Lode area all the way to Weaverville. Weaverville was established in 1849. So they moved fast looking for that rich spot. And when they found that it was hard work and not a lot of gold there, they heard about another place, they went there.
So they kept moving north.
And what followed these miners when they hit a rich strike, or rich creek, rich river, excuse me. The first person that followed, of course, was the guy who could make the most money first, and that was the blacksmith.
Yeah, the pitch. That's where Studebaker got his money,
Sure.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Because he could make wheelbarrows?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I heard about that.
After that came the merchants. Merchants, almost all of the merchants belonged to some sort of fraternal organization.
Okay.
And these fraternal organizations were not necessarily interested in some uneducated, dirty, grubby miners to be a part of their organization. So the miners felt a little looked down on, and along came some guy that suggested, well, E. Clampus Vitus is a fraternal organization and we need to grow it. And so that's really, it started as a tongue-in-cheek, once a month, big party. Everybody who showed up at the Diggins knew with the new claim, they had to become a clamper. That's just the way it worked.
Now these are really the grunts.
These are the fellows who dug the rocks out of the ground and looked for the gold underneath. And they weren't small rocks. Some of the mine tailings that were done by hand in Northern California and Southern Oregon is amazing what they did with a couple of mules, some chains and ropes. So anyway,
But they weren't the guys getting real rich.
well, no. You work hard all day, and you get this little dab of gold, and you go down to get some flour and some beans, and your dab of gold is gone. So you go back and you get some more. Now your shovel's wore out. Take that dab of gold, go get a shovel. So the merchants were the ones that were reaping the large benefits. It doesn't mean that there weren't some rich strikes where individuals who started with nothing ended up rich. There were, but by and large,
Oh, that's
they made enough money to get by, and it was hard work. And this, so E. Clampus Vitus became quite a large organization during the 1850s, during the peak of the gold rush, and became kind of the tail that wagged the dog also. Because as it turns out, when all the miners belonged to one organization, they put pressure on the merchants to become clampers, or they wouldn't shop with them. So just about everybody became a clamper, and this went on through most of the mining era, and the clampers pretty much were died out around World War I. There were demands for other things, copper being one of those, and the clampers just they just broke apart because they didn't have the big communities anymore. Because once a strike played out, people moved everywhere, and you had ghost towns, if you were lucky. Sometimes there was just mine tailings to show that somebody was there at one time, and hopefully somebody was still around that knew what was there and who was there. And that's what we're about today, because in 1939, I believe it was, a couple of wealthy fellows whose families did well in the mining districts decided to take a little automobile drive up into the mother lode to see where they grew up and played, and it wasn't there anymore. So they decided they would revitalize E. Clampus Vitus and charge E. Clampus Vitus with the responsibility of preserving as many of those sites as possible. The number of people there, how much gold was taken out, and so you do that with plaques. And when you drive down a roadway and you see a monument on the side of the road, you can bet just about exclusively it's going to be put there by two sources, the local historical society or E. Clampus Vitus.
Well, now, this wooden structure,
Yeah,
that's the way it all began, huh?
it starts with a form, and Mr. Glenn here, he is an expert at making those forms. Glenn, you are responsible for the erection of how many plaques?
Well, I'm between 70 and 80.
Oh, wow, so you know how to build those.
Yeah, I know that. I designed and built the first set of forms that was used for this type.
And then on the face of that goes this.
Right, they are these, this is a granite plaque that has been etched, and we mount it to the forms so that it is actually poured into the concrete and embedded in the concrete so you cannot get it out.
All roads lead to Ager?
Ager.
Now, where's Ager?
That's in Siskiyou County. You want to?
Jim?
Well, Edgar is, if everybody knows where Hornbrook is.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well, there's a road that runs between Hornbrook and Montague, and that's called Edgar. And there was also a large establishment right there in the corner where we put up that monument, and that was a stage stop. And there was a hotel, and then there was a meeting place there, and that's where the stagecoaches went into Klamath Falls and up that way. And everybody met there, or most people, if they were shipping things north, south, or into Klamath Falls and that way. And that's why they said all roads lead to Edgar.
So it was crossroads, literally.
It was crossroads. And later, they put the train through there, and that got rid of the stagecoaches pretty well.
Sure.
Up and down, north and south, but they still had to get to Klamath Falls, so they still had a pretty good stage stop there. I forget when. It's probably on the monument, probably tells you when they quit shipping out
So
of there.
this is when the signs are finished, and that's what it looks like on, we'll just, oh, and here's another one. What town's this in?
Was done last
April.
April at Wilderville, and it is dedicating the post office there, which is one of the still operating original still operating post offices in Southern Oregon. It's
Wilderville?
from 1858.
Well, now, folks, I invite you to come to Wilderville. So these are California miners kept moving north, huh?
Yes, they
Kind of
did.
yes and kind of no.
But they, it just happens that Weaverville was the junction point of the trail that came up from Crescent City, and everything that came into the interior here came up that trail from Crescent City
To Wilderville?
to Wilderville. And there was a junction, trail junction. It split. One went down to Galice. The other went over to Jacksonville and the Oregon-California Trail.
Well, now, Galice is kind of important in the gold country,
Yes.
isn't it? But let's get back to California. I just am interested because that's where all this started, huh? That's where the gold fever
Yes.
got
Sutter's Mill.
Sutter's Mill. Then it came up, the stories that I've heard about Wairika, man, that was a wild place.
Just about any mining camp was pretty wild. Not as wild as you would think, simply because they didn't have time to be too wild. But they managed to take a couple of days off a month and have a great time. And gold was actually discovered in Oregon before gold was discovered in Siskiyou County.
How so?
Well, it had to do with the supply routes. The toughest part about being a miner is having enough food to eat and enough supplies and enough clothing to keep you warm. And
Good tools.
a nice protected harbor was in Crescent City.
Aha.
And it was a fairly easy trail all the way over compared to any other kinds of trails that you would want to have. Trying to supply from south and through Oregon, you had to go through some really tall and tough mountains. So we started there. I mean, gold was discovered because of that trail down through the Applegate River area and through Jacksonville and on over. It was discovered on people who were making money by pack train, taking supplies to the miners. Ran across some gold over there in the Applegate River, and the next thing you know, there was a strike. And that one happened, what, in 1850, if I'm not mistaken? And 1851 was when gold was actually discovered at Wairika.
Well, now, Wairika was lots richer than anything else around, wasn't it? Or was Weaverville ahead of that?
Weaverville was a tremendously rich area because of the river.
So that's about you, huh?
About me, yeah, I'm also a miner. I mine. I'm getting lazy now. I'm getting older, but I've done quite a bit of mining.
Okay,
Yeah.
now, is your mining done with pick and shovel?
Well, some of it's pick and shovel, some's with a cat and a backhoe and a washing plant. And
I understand that pick and shovel is kind of out of fashion.
well, some places the only place you can get in with a pick or a shovel, you can do it with a pick and shovel. Otherwise, you use equipment. The way they did it back in the 1800s was just like that.
Yeah, well, hydraulic is kind of out too, isn't it?
Yeah, they don't let me do that anymore.
You can't even take the garden hose with your thumb on it.
Well, whatever. Depends on how light it is at night.
Oh my goodness. Now, you got books and things about your organization, but it really is working men's play. Am I right? I mean, why are you part of that?
I'm in it because of my love and interest for history, and also it gives me an outlet to do certain forms of community service. I really enjoy the camaraderie that I share with my friends. Going out on a weekend with your friends, dedicating a historical site, and camping out with them is just a really good time. And I don't know.
Now, what's with the hat? That's abbreviated for?
Eclampus vitus, yes. This was my trophy, so to speak, given to me after I was initiated in Weaverville. You get yourself a red shirt and you get you a red hat, and that shows that you're a brother. Brothers in red.
Oh, you haven't said a word. Let them, the floor's yours. Speak up.
Well, I went in Modesto, California in 1980 with the Stanislaus 58, which is probably the biggest chapter of Clampers.
Like how many people are you talking?
Well, when we do what we have, what we call our doings, which is a big barbecue for all the guys, they do it twice a year. It's nothing to see 2,500
2,500
at one time.
Now, a Stanislaus chapter is our largest chapter, and at last count, as I remember, it's been 10 years ago, they had over 6,000 members.
And so that's better than almost half that show up. Now, you got any kind of shindigs? I guess you'd call them shindigs if you're a bunch of miners, wouldn't you? What, what do you do in Northern California that makes history? What's got you written up in the newspaper, or, the good stuff?
Well, we have been sponsoring a kids fishing derby. We have a nice little lake called Greenhorn Lake, and there's a story behind Greenhorn, the name of the creek, the name of the road, the name of the park, and the name of the lake, but that would have to be another time. But it is of historical interest. It was a mined area. And so Chapter 73 in Wairika, we put on a free fishing derby, and we collect donations through the town so that we can give away a lot of prizes to all of every kid that shows up goes home with something, and we give them a free.
Maybe not a fish, but.
And we get that's true, and we give them a free lunch. So, and this we've been doing now for 7 years, and it's been very rewarding. There are a lot of small things we do. If somebody calls and they need our help for a short period of time, Veterans Administration had a VA Appreciation Day last year, and we went out and cooked the lunch for all the veterans and all their guests at the county fairgrounds. And those things come and go, and wherever we can step up and do it, we will.
So it's a service club, truly, with a red shirt on.
Yep.
And a big smile.
And I believe that we do provide a service each time we put up a historical plaque also, which is our main goal, is to preserve those sites that are dying, that one day no one will know anything about it anymore.
And we also belong to just about all our members belong to the Historical Society and work with the museums. We have a history day for the high school kids for essays, and we give out awards for that money. And when's History Day? I forget.
It happens in May.
May.
So then you're in there helping in all kinds of ways, but at the same time just having a lot of fun. And learning history?
Correct.
Spinning history yarns?
A little bit of knowledge can be a lot of fun.
They call that folklore.
Okay, who's going to spin one for me? A 1-minute folklore story about Clampus Violet.
There you go.
Did I say it right? Who's going to spin the yarn? Oh, these guys are.
Well, what can I say? It's just a bunch of guys that really enjoy doing what they do of historical significance, and
They
that's it.
have fun. They do plaques on landmarks, and they have fun. It looks like the major.
That's pretty much it.
That's pretty much it. Yeah.
Trumpet and a washboard band. Looks like fun to me. There's got to be a reason. Where else would you guys have ever met? I mean, you're not gonna.
None of us would have met any of us here or any of the without being a clamper.
Well,
We all have the same aspirations of preserving
well, Glenn.
this forgotten history that basically is just dropped along the wayside that other people just cannot pick up. The historical societies just are not able to cover everything.
Everything.
That happens.
Well,
And we try to pick up where they left off and bring everything up to date.
Well, Glenn, your shirt itself is history. I mean, I don't know how long since it's been washed, but
Let me put it like this. It's 30 years old. I'll put it like so.
and never been washed,
That's
right?
right.
You've got probably
We have hosed him down a few times.
88 badges.
At least that.
Well, we got to
yes,
show the back
yes.
of that too.
I will.
No, you're okay. We'll do that off cam. And
Okay. But
what's with the red shirt? You got an idea? Oh, we got 1 minute.
It's passed down through the years, you know. I
It's-
think it was because in the mining days they had flannel shirts usually, you know, especially in the winter. And most of the old flannel shirts were red.
Red flannel.
And then they had your long johns, they were red. And a little more folklore is our motto, which is Quiddo que absurdum, which means we believe it because it's absurd.
What a fun group, folks. I thank you guys very much for coming 100 miles and more just to be on Better Life TV and share with our audience the fun that we can have when we all get together. I'm Bernie Martin Beck, and I just want to thank you for tuning in today. And thanks, guys, for coming our way. You've opened our eyes to a new smile. And why not?
right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And the main reason we came is we heard how beautiful you were and this young lady. I
I'm
can't say too much
I am
about
so
the
glad
guys.
we're out
I'm
of
glad
time.
that we are.